It's so great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited.
Now, I gave everyone a little intro to you in the intro, as one does in an intro. But why don't you tell people who you are and what you do?
All right. Now my name's Laurie Howells. I'm head bartender at Archive the Myth here in London and been bartending for almost 13 years now. So,
I know.
you
And
know,
no, no, no. You're just started. For the people I've interviewed, they're all ages. Now, this has been quite a year. This past year, it's just started, and last year for you with being in a million competitions. But before we get to that, we have to go back a little. So, can you tell me where you grew up and kind of your first entree into this world, this crazy world of drinks?
yeah. So I was born in California.
Oh, no
Most
way.
people do not realize this.
I had no idea. I was thinking you were gonna say Bury St. Edmunds.
Yeah, no, I
That's
spent most of
California,
my
you're an
life.
American.
Yeah, so my dad he's passed away now, but he was in the US Air Force and he met my mum when he was stationed in England.
Oh,
Yeah, moved to California. We were stationed at Vandenberg Air Force Base, so home of the missiles and the rockets.
yeah.
And yeah, so Vandenberg's kind of, I think it's considered Santa Barbara County. So we lived there for a few years, moved to Memphis, and then I moved to start of the 2000s, moved to the UK and lived with my grandparents. So
Gosh, so
kind of
you lived
around
there for a long time, you grew up there?
only a few, yeah, not too much. I mean, my early school years, a couple, and then everything's been in the UK, so
Uh, how old were
accent's
you
not
when you
gone.
moved over?
Oh gosh, under 10. I was
Oh,
young,
okay.
yeah,
Because you definitely have an English accent more than
definitely,
than a Southern California or a Memphis accent.
definitely, yeah.
And also, I guess your mom being English.
Yeah, yeah, technically English, but it's another she was born in Germany. It's just, there's no, like, solid base, I think, for the family.
That
Everyone's
mean
from everywhere, so
that means you're a proper
yeah.
American. Yes, right? Of course.
Absolutely, I wanna do an ancestry test, I am so curious.
You will find you have everything inside you.
Yeah.
Now, was it a big change when you moved? Like, did people go, "Oh, you have an American accent," and then all of a sudden, very quickly, you had an English accent?
I think, at the first school I was at, it was kinda normal, so I grew up in Bury St Edmunds in Suffolk, and it's very well known because the US Air Force bases are stationed in Mildenhall just outside of Bury. So a lot of the schools, there was always a mix of English and American kids, so it's kind of I grew up with other American kids around, and it was kind of you weren't that one kid that everyone was, like, in awe about, so it was, yeah,
A
quite
bit
a
more
nice
nor
mixture,
right.
it was fun.
A bit more normalized. No one like,
Yeah,
"What's with your accent?"
yeah.
Because I remember when I was little, an Australian girl came in 4th grade, so maybe when we were 8, and we're like, "Oh my god, what's that
Yeah.
accent?" Of course, and it was the '70s and '80s, so, we're like, "Where are you from? What is that?" Now how did you get into drinks? Were you off to university studying something or
Um,
avoiding university or any of
so
that?
I finished, A-levels a little bit earlier, so I finished at 17, and I had intentions of going back to the States and going to college, and in another lifetime, I was very much into astrophysics, and I wanted to go down the science route.
Oh, boy.
And it was kind of that was my whole passion, I was obsessed with it, but I don't know what happened, I just woke up one morning, I was like, "I really wanna travel." So I was 18, like, by a couple months, and I was like, "Do you know what? I'm gonna go back to America, I'm gonna do a Kentucky road trip." There was, kind of a group tour that you can buy into, and you go with, like, 30 others, so I'm quite a shy person usually, so I was like, "That's a great idea." And, I just started traveling for a few years, really, so I was coming back to England. I used to work in a restaurant called Café Rouge for a few years. So, that was, like, my first ever taste of hospitality, but I never considered it properly back then. It was very much I'm coming in, I'm bartending, waitressing, make some tips. Okay, now I'm going to Thailand. So it was kind of this on and off period for a few years. And then I ended up in Australia, and I think that's where I really started falling in love with bartending. I was working at a steakhouse, and there was a mixologist at the time, or whatever you want to consider it. And he started setting fire to the bar and the drinks, and I was just like an impressionable 19-year-old or 20-year-old at the time actually. And I was like, wow, God, that's amazing. I want to do that. And no, life just changed. I never went back down the education route, I didn't do any of that, and then I just got obsessed.
You got obsessed, but I wanna just
Yeah.
go back a little to that first trip you took, the Kon-Tiki trip.
Yeah.
Um, when you set off on it, were you immediately like, "Okay, this is it. I love this travel thing." Was it, did you
I think
get that bug? Like, was it a eureka
definitely
moment?
it was only a couple months, the
Uh,
trip, where we started in New Orleans all the
oh
way through
boy.
to
Oh boy.
California.
What a place to start. Oh boy.
When you're really shy 18-year-old that's just left school, at New Orleans is an experience. But, no, I fell in love with that and photography, and it's just I don't really know how I switched because there's such polar opposites to go from, I wanna go down a science route, something very academic, very, streamlined, precise, to I'm just gonna not know what I'm planning for the next day and just start traveling. It was crazy, but Kentucky was absolutely fantastic, and that started, and then from there, I came home, made some money. It was only about 3 or 4 months I was home, and I was just, like, turned to my mum and I was like, "I've booked a ticket to Thailand and I'm going I'm going in 2 months." And then I just ended up in Asia for a while, and it just kept going, the travel bug.
And back to the guy with setting things on fire.
Yeah.
Um, do you think it was the spectacle of it or the using spirits? What do you think it was that sparked that interest in you?
I think it was the creativity side, and a little bit of the dramatics. It was just a mixture of all of it. Because at that point, it's when you're so new to bartending, there's no comprehension of this. For me at the time, there was no comprehension of, like, the spirits and the flavors and, like, everything that really drives me now. It was just, that guy's making something look pretty, he's garnishing it, it's amazing, it's also on fire, and it was just the intrigue and the creativity that I think drew me over.
And were you there a while? Like, did you take him aside and say, "Okay, I've gotta learn all this. Tell me how you do it?"
Yeah, and he left after a month of me joining, but yeah, which was unfortunate, but that was, like, the moment, and I kept trying to pick up little bit, but as I was backpacking, I never stayed anywhere too long.
Mhm.
It was a mixture of, I worked in some resorts and kinda cafes, fell in love with Midori when I was there, as you do.
That's
And then, no, I
fantastic.
came back to England and I just really wanted to focus in on it, and, there was a local hotel in Bury, it was called the Northgate at the time, and, but for the town it was in, just imagine quite a rural town, not too ahead of the trends, so probably, like, 5 or 10 years behind London, and it's just they were the kind of first probably innovative bar I saw in the town that were doing these creative designs. They were serving out of teapots and all this sort of thing, so at the time, it was mind-blowing, and,
What year are we talking?
oh gosh, maybe 2018? No, 2017.
So about 7 years ago.
Yeah, and,
And were you
then
just
her
like a sponge?
oh, massively. It was
Huh.
kind of I started off on the floor. It was a bit difficult. I was kinda like the only female there, and it was her trying to prove that I could get on the bar was quite a mission. So we had a very extensive back bar, so it'd be things like 40 gins, 40 whiskeys, all of these. And I'd go away and I'm like, "Okay, I've learned all of the gins. I can tell you everything. I've learned all of this. I can tell you everything." I just kept trying to work my way up, and yeah,
So when you felt that you had mastered or gained the confidence, did they let you behind the bar?
occasionally,
Damn them. Look at them now. I bet they wish they had.
they're close.
See?
And yeah, no, it was all respect to them. It was honestly a very lovely,
Uh,
wonderful hotel and a great to work in. But no, it was really hard to push my way up, and
mhm.
I worked for a couple places after that I won't really name, and they had the idealization that, and they did say this, I as a female, I should be waitressing on the floor and not on the bar, and that kind of spurred me on even more. And it was kind of that first introduction to, um, some of the gender politics that we face, and
Yes,
yeah.
and unfortunately still face.
Yeah.
But, so where do you feel is the first place that gave you that chance to be who you wanted to be behind the bar?
Um, gosh, it's quite a I worked for quite a range of different bars, so I was very much
There
trusted. later on to, like, make drinks and
There
menus.
there may not be one,
Yeah.
you don't have to focus on one if it was a learning progression,
I think it was
each
definitely a
day.
progression, but I think the first time I properly felt at home and embraced for who I was and what I did was at Alma.
Okay.
So that was the first time I ever fully felt like, "Wait, my ideas could be good." Been quite a few bars in the past who didn't really support that, but
Uh-huh.
no, Tony and Alma, they really embraced creativity and learning, so yeah.
Just for everyone out there, Alma is in London. You said you were in Bruce and Edmunds.
Yeah.
What was how did you take the leap? Did you know that you always wanted to come to London?
I think London wasn't initially a destination I ever considered. It was purely when you work in a small rural town and it's okay, there's 4 or 5 bars to choose from, you kind of run out of options, and I very much was self-taught. Everything I did was like I'd go home, I'd research, I'd study, I'd wanna know more, I'd go out to other bars and just try to find out. But I was talking with my partner, so he's also, in hospitality, he's a chef.
Mhm.
And he ended up, getting a job at Gordon Ramsay's Michelin, in Chelsea. So that was kind of the leap that took us over to London. And yeah, and I started out at Zeta Townhouse in Clerkenwell,
Uh-huh.
and it was the most beautiful hotel and loveliest team, and yeah.
What did you find there was a big difference between what you were doing in kind of the countryside to what you were doing, what they were doing in
Massive,
London? Massive.
absolutely massive. I think there was still quite a lot of stigma out in the country that, oh, bartending's considered like a uni job, or, oh, it's just
Oh.
because you don't know what you wanna do, but then you move to London and it's like, no, this is a career, this is a intentional life decision, and people are incredibly passionate. So there was definitely a big, big difference, and it was amazing to finally be around more people who are doing this because they want to and not just because they need to, so it's
It's funny you should say that because I just interviewed someone and he was saying that working in New York, same even though it's a big, big city,
yeah.
your initial especially when we were when because he's about my age, that when he was working in the '90s in New York, that everyone would say, "Oh, so what else do you do? What else are you doing?
Yeah.
You an actor? What are you doing?" You had to do something else, and that frustrated him so much because he's like, "No, no, this I'm doing this," you know?
Yeah.
So it's funny to hear that in the countryside, it was like that for you,
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
and that coming to London, it was full on. And I
Yeah,
guess, if Zetter was already open, then it had already reached kind of this incredible level, this
yeah.
standard um, of hospitality that we're kind of used to now in the past 10 years here. So what were some of the things that you found at Zetter that you just adored working on initially and then could do more of it at Alma?
Um, it was just being around really passionate people who love drinks. There was a lot of elements to it. Everything just felt more professional and intentional, and it was kind of being introduced to like, oh, here's our lab space. Like there's a little mini lab hidden away, that you wouldn't notice is in the hotel, and it was just like, oh, okay, I don't have to prep on the bar. Like there's actually a designated area, and no, I learned so much, and it was just so intriguing to go through. They've got like these archives of their recipes and their history, and there's so many amazing bartenders that come from there, including like Remy Savage. So it was crazy to go through and see all this history. And I'd say history is quite a big thing that definitely didn't have out in the country as much. A lot of these bars might have been open for 5 years or so, but then when you come to London, at so many bars, they've got an absolute plethora of bartenders who had come before you, and it's fascinating to see everything they'd done before.
Mhm.
So that was exciting. But no, lab space was probably the thing that I got so excited over. Yeah.
See, something as small as lab space,
Yeah.
man. And now now, as I said, you've just been, Miss Award Queen this past year, 2024 and even 2025. Had you even started to compete when you were in Bury?
I entered one competition while I was in Bury, and that was purely because, I worked at a sister site of the North Gate, and a spirit rep came in from Chase Gin. So just before they joined Diageo, and I didn't even know cocktail competitions were a thing.
I know that was gonna be my
What do you
question.
mean? Like,
That was gonna be my next question, like, did you have when did you even know? So
I was like, "What do you mean it's a competition? Is it like you put your name in a hat, you win a bottle? Like, what you
yeah.
on about?" And they're like, "No, just, here's a gin." And it was I think I used the pomelo and grapefruit one, like make a cocktail and send a pitch. And I was like, "Oh, this is fun." And I entered in, didn't get through the first round. And then 2 days before the semi final in London, they were like, "Oh, someone's dropped out. You're the wild card. Do you want to come?" And I was like, "Sure." I don't really know what I'm doing, but they're like, "Oh, you're just gonna make 4 drinks, like chat with the judges." I still had no clue what I was doing. So I went to one of my old bar managers, and I asked him about competitions, and he'd done a couple, and he was like, "Well, maybe bring a food pairing, like show that you know how the spirit works." And turn up, and I'd made, these little gin God, it's so embarrassing, these little gin gummy bears, some chocolate truffles, made the cocktail, and, I won and ended up going to the global finals, and I was still like, "What is happening?" And then through the whole thing, I was so confused what was actually going on, and then that kinda, yeah, led to today's, competitions,
I
but
love it. That's a
yeah,
lesson for everyone. Make those gin gummies and
yeah,
bring chocolate truffles,
make
right?
gummy bears and just end because you really don't know what's gonna happen.
That's so
Um,
funny. I love
yeah,
that, and that you won and you were the wild card. See, it was meant to
yeah.
be.
Went to the global final, was in Herefordshire in a field.
I
So
love I love that the global finals were in
you
Herefordshire,
yeah.
in a field.
You had, like, a gentleman being flown over from Hong Kong, people from Australia, and I was like, "I get a bus ride to Herefordshire," but I was just grateful. But yeah, no, Australia won that one, but that kinda sparked something in me because I'm as much as behind the bar I might seem quite confident or loud or bubbly, I'm a very anxious and shy person, and I kind of really wanted to improve on that. And so I started entering more competitions just to fix just how I speak in public because I get very
Oh,
shaky and I hate it. And that's the main intention of competitions
uh,
is to fix that fear. Yeah.
and you know what? It must have been such an eye opener to be in that field in Herefordshire with so many people who were as passionate as you are
Yeah.
and were at that time. That must have been amazing to meet all those people.
No, it was yeah, they made a mini festival, there was a big stage, there were so many people there, and it was incredible to see, like, that many people come together and embracing just cocktails and gin and spirits, and it massive eye opener for sure.
Yeah, and gives you the impetus to keep going,
Definitely,
knowing
yeah.
this is a real profession. This is something
Yeah,
that I can learn and grow into. How exciting, and right before you came to London too.
yeah, just before.
So, obviously, winning your first competition, you must have thought, "Oh, well, no, it's easier to then enter the next competitions." Not
Yeah.
that you think you're gonna win all of them, but that you know what's coming.
I found them really thrilling and fun, and
Uh-huh.
there's a level of confidence that helped, and I'm grateful that it was there. I would never say, like, arrogance, but it was just like, "Oh, like, I do stand a chance at it, so let's see what happens."
And the creative person in you, you created that cocktail. That must have been a real, pat on the back about your, creativity and knowing that the flavors that you think go together, someone else also thinks go together.
Yeah. No, it was really rewarding.
Uh,
It was very fun.
so let's go back to Alma. You said that it was one of the first places that you really felt that you were,
Yeah.
it was like your dream job of what you thought it would be. What kind of things were you doing there that was different from what came before?
Um, so for anyone who didn't get to visit Alma whilst we were one big team, it was led by Tony Pescatori, so previously the Nightjar.
Yeah.
And, he just had a incredible view on menu creation and cocktails, so it was very much a team environment, so it was like, "Okay, we need to make a menu. the entire team came together. It wasn't just the most senior, it was every single member from bartender down to the bar back. We were all involved from the whole conception. So it was we created like the 4 pillars of the menu, and so there was like one side would be ancestry, one would be metropolitan, one would look at lost arts, and one's a bit more just kind of conceptual. And no, we were all given cocktail or like areas to research. So you'd go away for a month. I was given like Mayan civilization and really random ones to go away. You'd research as much as possible into like agriculture, themes, holidays, like anything you could find. And it was just incredible to then take that and piece it together and look at cocktails in a completely different way. Previous to that, I was so used to bar managers insisting that you have to take a classic and put a twist on it. But Tony just massively opened my eyes. It was like, "No, you really don't. It's here's a conceptual or an idea or, and so like the Mayan one, for example, we together, me and him made a cocktail called Mama Kia, and it was inspired by the sun goddess. There was no classic cocktail or anything. It was cool, right? So we know we want to do mezcal, and then from there, like agriculture, they used to ferment cassava back in the day. They used to chew it, and the enzymes in your mouth would break it down, and it would eventually ferment and kind of become a bit like a champagne-y, sparkling liquid. So we kind of put a play on that, and we just started to elevate and keep going. And it was incredible to actually just sit there and work with the flavors and the idea and be like, okay, what goes with this particular flavor? I want to draw out the fruity side. I want to draw out some herbal. I want to do this. And it was an absolutely mind blowing way to look at drinks. And that really started to change everything. Yeah.
Gosh, what an experience,
Yeah.
especially and that's just one drink
That
out
was
of
just
a
one
whole
drink.
yeah.
Yeah, and it ended up being served in a, gold moon that was really hard to drink out of, but I loved it. Um, it was foamy, there was mezcal, a little bit of Singani, mango, cassava fermentation, some ancho. It was delicious, and yeah.
Do you
And
find
like
that's one of your favorite parts now is the cocktail
oh,
creation?
absolutely. I think dream job would be R&D if I could
Uh,
sit there and just research and just continuously make drinks and serves and menu concepts. That's the one. I love it. Yeah.
that's the scientist in you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely
Exactly.
coming through. Putting together everything,
Oh, I
in
love it.
the
Yeah.
lab.
I love
Yeah.
doing the graphs. I like doing all the spreadsheets and how we're gonna yeah.
See? The scientist in you. How long were you there for?
I think it was coming up to 2 years. It was
Mhm,
like a year and 2/3 or so.
mhm, mhm. And was that when Archive and Myth came calling? Or did you
Um,
do something in between?
I had a small stint at another bar in London, but it
Huh.
was more, just things they were thinking of take the big owners, who are out of the country were thinking of taking it in another direction. So myself and Tony, we kinda decided to exit and move on to another plan that didn't happen, but oh well. And yeah, he moved country. He's now in Serbia, and I kind of just did a generic bartending job. Nothing too crazy. And there was one day this brand ambassador who a lot of people might know, Mike. He used to be the Axia, but now he's with Renee. He came in and he knew me from Almo, and he was just like, "You're just not your usual self. Are you okay?" And I never usually tell people like really how I'm feeling. I'm like, oh, I need creativity back. I just want to be passionate again about my job. And he was like, "Oh God, I need to send you something." And it was the application for Archive and Myth. And at that point, it hadn't had a full brand name on it. It was just a document. It said the Hippodrome Casino. And he's like, just please listen to me, like read it through. I want you to meet Jack because I think your brains might work quite similar and it might get along. And yeah, it just went from there.
And had you ever met Jack before? Or
I
heard of
don't
him?
think he remembers.
Uh,
I met him one he was hosting an Axia competition at his bar, Esther, in Camden, and I'd gone with my team, and we were watching because 2 of my, bartenders were in the final, And yeah, I think I might have gotten a little bit drunk after that, so I don't know if we actually spoke.
Ooh, Mastika can hit you every time.
Oh yeah.
Right. Remember, I live with a Greek Cypriot, so I know my way around Mystica, that's for sure. That's so funny. So when you came together, was it just a meeting of the minds? It was
Yeah, I think
and
I'm not sure if he had like a little stalk through my Instagram and saw that I love the creativity. He's around the corner right now, actually. Um, but yeah, no, we just came together, and he was just. It was lovely to see someone who was just as passionate about a bar and drinks as much as my previous place was. So I was just kind of, yeah, I want to give this a go. Like, this sounds exciting, and it's very much fun to be a part of bar openings.
that
Much
was
as
gonna
I'm
be
like,
my next question.
yeah, it's great to join a bar that already has heritage. There's so much you can learn. But then on the flip side, I personally I love opening a bar. It's there's so much, more, and it's kind of exciting to see something when it's completely blank canvas and then it all come together. So
Yeah, why don't you describe the bar a little for people who haven't been to Archive and Myth and the whole, the thought behind the special menu that you have?
So yeah, Archive and Myth, we opened June of 2024, so we haven't even made it to a year yet. We're quite a new bar. So we're situated in Leicester Square, hidden under the Hippodrome Casino. So usually a very busy, chaotic, outside sort of area. If you're used to London, it's kind of that touristy hot spot that you don't always want to walk through. So it's a really beautiful juxtaposition of what we've created here. So if you were to come in, there's a poster with lots of very talented male dancers. And if you go
Magic
the
Mike
door,
dancers, everyone out there,
yeah.
Magic Mike, yeah.
Yeah, I should have said Magic Mike actually. That sounds quite bad without that reference. No, if you were to head through that door, there's an image and a door with lots of images on, and it's our little password protected door. So when you make a reservation, you'll get the password. Come on in, and yeah, we're hidden underground at the incredible bar. So it's designed by a lady called Rachel O'Toole, who very well known if you know her work from Canada, and she's kind of created this almost like hidden timescape. You don't know what era you've walked into. So originally, the space was just a storeroom for the Hippodrome. So when the big bosses came down, they would find posters from the 60s, tickets from previous shows, and some old bottles, in fact. And it kind of spurred them on. This place almost became like an archive to the history of the Hippodrome.
Uh-huh.
So as much as, yes, it's a very well-known casino, this venue has also hosted things from Cilla Black, the Jackson 5, the first rendition of Swan Lake was performed here. Harry Houdini began his career, and then if you look back around 150 years, it used to be a circus kind of style, and they would march the elephant through Soho, and they'd drop down a water slide down into a similar area where we are. So it's got this absolute crazy history behind it. So they were kind of drawn on the archive of it, and that's where the kind of concept of archive and myth came. And then they brought Jack in, and he kind of created the identity and the drinks and everything behind it. So we very much, if you were to come in, our menus presented, it reads quite classically, but behind the scenes, there's a lot more flavor and a lot more intrigue. So it might be, we'll take the whiskey sour, for example. It reads whiskey sour, but then behind the scenes, there's miso, there's apple, there's smoked oat, there's so much more that's going into it to create like a different version. But no,
I think
quite an exciting bar.
it has one of my favorite foams ever. Oh,
Yeah,
man,
it's for
that
like,
apple, with
it's
the
lovely,
mix of the
isn't it?
2, it's a
Yeah.
great, great cocktail. Now you also have mini cocktails.
Yes.
Yes, tell us about those.
So with the menu, it's split into two parts. So you've got a minor and a major section. So it's a little subtle nod to the musical background. But with the minor section, it's miniature serves. So they're usually 2 or 3 sips straight from the freezer. So whether you want to kind of take it slow and just have small sips, or you want a little something while you're reading the menu, it kind of tailored to make everyone feel comfortable. And then you go through to the majors, and they're your more full size versions. And we've just launched our alcohol free offer as well. So
And you can get that any time of year, not just
Anytime,
January.
yeah, no, not just on the dry January bandwagon. We are very truly passionate about making sure everyone feels comfortable and everyone has the opportunity to enjoy something that's not just tonic and, a
And
juice.
also another vintagey thing is your vintage cocktails as well. Last time I
Yeah.
was here, I saw that.
Yeah, so we're really fortunate. We've got quite a lot of vintage spirits on the back bar. So Jack had a lot of fun at auction. He's found some absolute treasures. Everything from vintage Aperol from the 1960s to a vintage Blue Curacao from 1975, because obviously you need that on your back bar. Um, so we've got a lot of vintage spirits, and we want to keep it accessible and not locked away in a kind of cabinet, so everyone is welcome to try them. So we've put them in some classic cocktails as well. So everything from a vintage old fashioned with Ballantines to vintage Blue Lagoon
I
with some
love it.
vodka from the 60s. So yeah, there's a little bit of everything on there as well.
I know, I keep promising to bring my grandmother's bottle of, chartreuse around for him to look at
Oh, honest,
pre-auction. Yeah.
we still can't get chartreuse in 3 months, and I cannot get any. So
You never know,
hold
you
on
may
to that bottle. That'll be worth millions.
uh, when it's worth millions, you guys can buy it, alright? How's that? We'll take that.
Don't know if I'll get that approved, but we'll try.
Well, now that it's been, up and running, you've I guess, it seems that you've just had this spate of, winning or being in the top 3 of these drink competitions. Did you just decide to do one after the other? I'm gonna say some of them. The K Sake, Cadello, the Meister Hunter Global, Everleaf Spritz, Fuel Masters with Prosecco. Do they just sound really interesting to you, or you were like, "I just feel like I need to even do more than just open a bar"?
Initially, especially last year, it's where it kind of really started to kind of kick off with the competitions. When I first did World Class, for example, in Jaeger, I had interest in the brands, and if I enter a competition, it's usually because I fully support the product and I really embrace it and I love working with it. So initially, it was okay. I'm entering, I love the brand, but I want to work on my confidence, and then I think I've replaced that travel bug with another kind of addiction of just entering competitions, and each and every one of them, it's like from Everleaf, especially last year, it's a brand that I love wholeheartedly and I fully
Yeah.
embrace. So it just felt natural. I wanted to support them. I wanted to enter. Did not think I was going to win. I never think I'm going to win. So it's just like, how does this keep happening? It just feels like a fluke still. But yeah,
It's not a fluke.
yeah,
It's
I don't
not a
know.
fluke, okay? You've proven yourself, all right? You would I don't need to tell you this. You wouldn't win or be top 3 of all of these if, you weren't good at it.
You never know.
You never know, you never know. It's not because they're your mother or that they like you. It's actually you've done a great job.
Says gummy bears. I always
It's
bring a little
you
snack
bring
with
I
me.
know, I was gonna say, do you
It's
keep bringing that?
raisin.
That was gonna be my last question, actually. Do
Yeah.
you still bring gummy bears to every single, create gummy.
Not always gummy bears. But yeah, no, it's literally I do that with every competition I will make, and it's never a requirement at all. I don't know why I do it. I just feel like it's ended up being my little good luck thing now. Is if I make a little food pairing, it should work.
I love that. Make a little for food pairing. So
Yeah.
so again, in June, it will be a year. What are you guys working on? Are you thinking about the next year? Are you just riding high on what you have?
So next week we are gonna be going to the top 50 awards for the UK. We've got into that. Not that we're award chasing or anything, so kind of starting the year extremely high. And from there it's kind of just progressing and maintaining the standard that we've built. Of course there's some possibly super secret projects in the background
Alright.
just in general for me that I'm not gonna reveal just yet, but hopefully, they'll come about. But there's a lot planned. Everything from we wanna break a world record for the Peace Cafe to creating the second rendition of our menu. And yeah, there's a lot going on. It's a very, very busy year. Lots of takeovers, just lots of traveling.
And is there something you personally want to achieve that, you're working on? If you wanna reveal it. If you don't, that's fine
Um,
too.
Personal goals is I set out I wanna do 40 competitions this year.
Oh,
I've never
man.
seen anyone do it. I don't know why I picked that number. It was, I came into work and the PR team are like, "What's your New Year's resolution?" I was like, "I don't know, 40 competitions." And then now I'm held to it and I'm like, "I have to do this now. I've gotta make it work."
Uh,
Um,
are there
and
f
then
are there 40 competitions
if you really
here?
stretch it out, yeah, if you really
There are 40. Oh, boy, there's a
yeah.
lot of competitions out there.
They're always going, that's the thing, but, they usually always kinda come together, so right now there's a few going on, I've got Amara Montenegro in 2 weeks, and then, yeah, Cointreau, there's quite a few competitions that are going on at the moment, and then you'll find that there'll be loads in June again, loads in September. Just kinda just pacing myself through the year. So, no, wanna achieve that, but just ultimately just wanna make this bar the best it can be and be happy.
Well, it sounds
Yeah.
like you're moving in the right direction for that.
Yeah,
It does.
definitely.
Well, this has been so great to talk to you, to get to know you a little better. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. Honestly, thank you so much for even asking. I was so excited.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. Now I have both you and Jack, 2 Archive and Myth people. And yeah, and if everyone just head down there. It is such a great bar. And I meet Akis there all the time, and, it's kind of in my head, it's our go-to now in Leicester Square. It's so funny that you say, about the Hippodrome, though. You know, when you were talking about it, it is a building that people would walk by all the time and not even notice it to get out of the way
Massively.
of
Yeah.
the crowds, and it is so worth to first go in, go upstairs, have a look at it and inside, and you can just imagine those elephants there, and then go
Yeah.
downstairs, grab yourself a seat at the bar, watch Laurie do her thing, and then order some of the delicious Chinese food that comes too.
Oh god, yeah, chop chop is so good. But no, if you're
It's
a
like the
history
perfect
buff,
night.
the owner Simon, he loves giving tours, and there's so many little areas because it is such a old building. He'll take you through because in total there's about 10 bars. You've got multiple restaurants, you've got the show, you've got everything going on. And if you love history, he'll go through, he'll show you all these little areas. And sometimes you're walking down the hallway and it's like, oh, look up there, and there's all these like carvings that you didn't realize before. But it's the Hippodrome, yeah, it's so easy to overlook it, but it's its own little hub of life inside, and it's incredible.
Absolutely, and you're there, more importantly. So, we will see you at the bar, and thank you so much, and,
Yeah,
talk to you soon.
thank you, you too.